I think we're ready now to begin the labyrinth walk. And what I am going to do here is just again remind you, I offer CS, and you'll see why it's a creation spirituality labyrinth walk, 8 times a year. They're the movable feasts, I call them, of the Celtic wheel. And this is one of those cosmic feasts. So I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. And there we go. Got a nice one, Bob? All set?
Yep, we're good.
Good. So,
Is your audio on?
I don't know. Yeah, it's on. Can you hear me?
Yes, but
All right, good.
keep sharing.
So Bob is our technician, and he I don't like to do these without Bob because he lets people in and out, right? So, or with a technician, I should say. And if you downloaded one of the labyrinths, you can get it ready or pull out your handheld labyrinth. And if you don't have any of that, do what you want, but there's a wonderful app you can download on your smartphone very quickly. Go to your app store. It's called Labyrinth Journey. Labyrinth Journey. I have used it for years, and I have even communicated with those people when I lost it, and they're very nice people. So we're going to use this. Now, I want you to understand that before the pandemic, most of us who are trained facilitators, I bought this when I went through training because I thought, oh, when I teach, I'll hold it up and I'll talk about lunations and the rosette and the path. And boy, the pandemic changed all that because most of us didn't have a labyrinth in our backyard, right? And so every Friday, Veriditas.org, Veriditas is the organization that trains people to be facilitators. They have had a labyrinth walk every Friday afternoon. It alternates between 3 o'clock and 7 o'clock Eastern time. And there's quite a little community that's built up. So if you haven't tried this, please, I'm glad you're here tonight, and I hope you stay, and I hope you like this. And I walk the labyrinth on my phone. If I can't use the one in my yard, I walk it every morning. Why? And I walk it with the 4 paths because these are my two main practices. The 4 paths, I believe, is needed for this time now more than ever because it is so easy for us to become stuck in one of the paths. And for many of us in the United States, a lot of us, I've been in circles where people seem really entrenched in the negativa right now. It's hard not to be, right? So if we're just in the negativa, or if we're protesters and we're just in the transformativa, my thought is that we could easily burn out, very easily burn out, but our fire is needed. So if we renew ourselves by beginning each morning by counting our blessings, even in the midst of the dark night, if we can count our blessings, we'll be okay. It will lead us to the creativa and we'll be okay. We will be inspired. So I am going to start with a land acknowledgement. Um, I learned during that pandemic, and I learned from Diane Longboat, that an invocation of thanks should be done before anything important is started. And so I'm beginning with a thank you. And I learned from Robin Wall Kimmerer. She's a Potawatomi, a mother, a plant ecologist, a writer, and the State University of New York distinguished teaching professor at the SUNY College of Environmental Science and Forestry in Syracuse, New York. She serves as the founding director of the Center for Native Peoples and the Environment, and she teaches that kinship begins with paying attention to all the more than human beings around us. And when we do this, we develop a gift thinking, seeing how truly blessed we are. And that leads us to gratitude and thinking of these beings as our kin. Therefore, We want to pay more attention to them, and the beautiful cycle continues. So, labyrinths are connected to both place and people. We want to deepen this connection and begin with an attitude of gratitude. And I honor the cosmos. Now, if you want to use body prayer for this, stand up, turn, face the directions, use gesticulations. You are welcome to do that. The cosmos, 13.8 billion years old. The observable universe is 93 billion light years across, constantly expanding at a speed that even exceeds the speed of light. Our common story, yours and mine, is very, very big and very, very old, very wise and very creative. I honor Cosmos, our container. And I honor our home. The Thanksgiving address of the Mohawks begins, "Let us put our minds together as one and send greetings and thanks to our Mother Earth, who sustains our lives with her many gifts. When I look north to the earth of which I'm made, I thank you. I thank you, Earth. When I look east to the air within my lungs, take a deep breath, if you will. I thank you, air. When I look south to the warmth of the sacrificing sun that provides us with photosynthesis and plants, I thank you, sun. When I look west to water, without which I would die, I thank you, water. The stars above me provided the dust which formed the calcium of my bones. Thank you, stars. The minerals, microbes, and mycelial systems beneath me provide unseen grounding and essential communication. Thank you, foundation. The soul within me yearns to acknowledge and come into balance with the web of which I am just a tiny part. I am so grateful. I honor the plant beings and animal beings. Take a look at the winged beings and the no-legged beings and the finned beings. It's just amazing. I honor the indigenous peoples before we begin, for their memory is the correct starting point for human history on Earth. They were the original custodians of this land. They held ceremony for eons. So right now I'm on Edisto Island in South Carolina, and I honor the Natchez Cusco tribe. Chief John Glenn Creel is the chief. John Glenn Creel is the chief of the Edisto Natchez Cusco tribe. I honor my teachers, Lauren Artris, March McCarthy, Carlita Benaran, Matthew Fox, Thomas Berry, Brian Swim, and all the many wise elders and youngsters who have taught me the ways of body, mind, heart, and spirit, and how these ways are integrated. I acknowledge a connection with all labyrinths everywhere. I'm grateful for this amazing archetype. I invite the ancestral spirits to guard and bless this walk. I invite the angels of light to safeguard all walkers. I thank the great mystery who conceived this, who became this, and who remains with us. We are so grateful. Thank you. And so tonight, rebalance to re-enter the light. At least in the North Hemisphere, we're getting ready to enter the light. Of course, my friends in Australia and Tasmania are getting ready to enter a time of harvesting and more darkness, huh? Darkness. So I thought about balancing, and that led me to rock stacking and making cairns. It has a spiritual meaning across cultures for centuries. It has. The act of it carries a practice of patience and a physical effort of creating balance. If you've ever tried the tree pose in yoga, you know about the patience and physical effort of creating balance. Each rock can signify an intention of grace for thankfulness or offered up for another need. And as I said, a stack of rocks is called a cairn. Inuk is a figure. You can sort of see a humanoid, the head and the arms and the torso and the hips and legs. It's made of piled stones or boulders, and it's constructed to communicate with humans throughout the Arctic. Traditionally, they were constructed by the Inuit. They're integral to Inuit culture and are often intertwined with representations of Canada and the North. It's a structure made of stones piled on top of each other. They were used for navigation in the frozen North, where in the snow everything could look the same, but this humanoid figure sticking up would be rather distinctive. They were also used to mark sacred places. They
Inuk.
were directional markers. It signifies safety, hope, and friendship. I once was a co-member of a group, and in my ceremony, I said that group was my Inuksuq. They pointed me in the right direction, and I knew they were giving me wise counsel. And I really think creation spirituality does that for us today. Combined with the labyrinth, I think it's unbeatable. So Inuksut, oh, the plural, Inuksuit, have been transformed into a symbol of hope and friendship that transcend borders to reach people all over the world. Now, just this morning, I received this from Christine Walters Paintner. One of the remarkable features of the equinox is the balance between night and day. Balance is a dynamic place. We think of balance as being so placid. It's a dynamic place rather than static. It is in this wavering that we can become fully present to the internal micro movements of our lives. She writes, I find great comfort in this invitation. It's the struggle for balance that I wanted to focus a little bit on. And this is Penny talked about islands of coherence in the trailer. This comes from Ilya Prigozhin. When a system is far from equilibrium, and lots of people and lots of countries feel that way about their governments now. Small islands of coherence in a sea of chaos have the capacity to lift the system to a higher order. As various parts reorganize to a new whole, that's important, to a new whole, the system escapes into a higher order. And building on this, Barbara Marx Hubbard wrote that small islands of coherence in a sea of chaos can shift the whole system to a higher order. And for some months now, when I talk about this, I say, it starts with ourself, building coherence within ourself, which is what we're going to try to do with this labyrinth walk. And then we join our small communities, which is what CSC is about. I said it wrong. Yes, I did. CSC, Creation Spirituality Communities. And then perhaps these islands can actually merge and become a continent at some point. We'll see. We'll see. So I wrote a poem a while ago, and I just want to use this. We're nearing the end of my setup. So we balance ourselves. That's where it starts. That's the only possible change we can really have any kind of semblance of control over. As on this day, light and dark are even, day and night in balance, so we stop to quiet ourselves to reestablish sane proportions, to allocate time for both shadow and sun, and hold the seesaw in steady abeyance just for today. We acknowledge the sameness and necessity. We feel suspended, waiting to move forward. Emerging from the cave, the sun can seem too bright. The darkness was good for allowing seeds to stretch roots and incubate. We've been looking in, reimagining the world we want to leave the children. Now we're poised on this elegant cusp, looking out. What sacred activism can we embrace? We've been protected. Are we ready to connect? We're ready to walk now, and this will be our music. You notice 3 different artists, each piece entitled Equinox. So maybe 6, 7, maybe 8 minutes. Somewhere between 6 and 8 is usually a pretty good time. Now, on a bigger labyrinth like this, it will take me that long, probably to walk. And if you have a little one, you might want to walk it a few times. You might want to stay in the center for a while. You might want to just sit and meditate for a while. That's your choice. I recommend the CS way. Start by putting your hands on your labyrinth, even if it's a piece of paper, that's okay, and circle it. Circle it, and I recommend that you go clockwise. That's the Celtic way. I learned that from Christine Walters Paintner. The Celtic way. And that's when we count our blessings. That's when we do that. When we enter the labyrinth is when we release. And you know, some of you much better than I, we're entering, some of us, the negativa, and being sad and grieving. And some of us, we're just letting go and entering a deeper state of meditation. So that when we reach the center, that's when the creativa can happen, and we can listen with new ears and see with new eyes. And spend some time there awaiting inspiration. And sometimes that inspiration comes hours or days later, by the way. A labyrinth walk keeps working if it's good for you, the way a good massage keeps working, sometimes days after you've been with your therapist. And then as you emerge, you're on the Via Transformativa. What is it you have learned that you want to implement? What do you want to integrate? What is it that you particularly want to celebrate? How can you take care of yourself so that you can do this great work? So these are how I integrate the steps when I walk. So I urge you to walk as you're ready. And at the end, I'll quietly call you back, and I have a short poem. And then there'll be some time for talking. There'll be some time for sharing if you choose to. It's up to you. Tonight, because this part started 7:30, took us about 15 minutes to set up. We might not finish until 8:30. It might be a little bit before that, though. So, are you good? Anybody have a big question because you've never walked before, or you have this burning issue you need answered first? Okay, we're ready then. Enjoy. Blessings on your path. I'd like to bring us back with a very short four-line poem by Nancy Wood. I found it in Shaman's Circle. It's called Spring, Bringing the Buds to Life. Listen, in the earth, the seeds are stirring and making noise, like the birds whose song has been silenced by winter. Now, the snow is being devoured by Sun, our elder, and in the branches, the persistence of our prayers is bringing the buds to life. The persistence of our prayers is bringing the buds to life. This is when I invite any of you who wish to say something. We're a small group, so you can probably just jump in or raise your hand or whichever you're more comfortable with. Anything that perhaps a thought came to you or it occurred to you that um, or questions or comments. There was a question in the chat. Is there a particular mantra with each step? No, it's how do you live the four paths? On the labyrinth, I do it in that order because it makes sense to me. In fact, there's no one way or one right way to walk the labyrinth. And as you know, you can go through all four paths in 5 minutes or less, or you can be stuck in one for quite a while. Yeah, David, you are muted still. Oh, you found it.
Yes, everything's on on an app, right? But I did not know about this, and we have this in our backyard. We built a labyrinth. My wife Janine and I, who's a UCS graduate, we built a labyrinth in our backyard, and doing it here on the phone, being here in Switzerland. Um, and as I mentioned, Janine's mom is dying. She's 95 years old, and I was thinking about her walking through this labyrinth, and what I got out of this was just how beautiful her life has been with the ups and downs that I know of. It reminded me how beautiful our lives are, the ins and outs, the ups and downs, the challenges, the deep questions, and the the things we plan, the things that happen to us. Uh, and I got just a deep gratitude. I didn't come out yet. I'm still in the center, uh, and I like what you said about a labyrinth walk being like a good massage. Stays with you once you finish. So I'm looking forward to that continuing wisdom. It's just being how to be with her, um, and how to be an uplifting presence in this time, and to offer all of us who are here to just be grateful for our lives. Um, but this was a beautiful experience to do this on in this mode.
I'm glad you appreciated it. Um, I had never tried it, and then I needed it, and and then it was like, wow, I've been missing out. Yeah, it lights up, and the colors go away, and there's sort of like this dandelion fireworks thing, and it's fun. Yeah, thank you, David. Thank you for sharing. And for what it's worth, I've used the labyrinth so frequently in dealing with uh, grief and the turmoil of that transition of dear elders, you know.
Mm.
It's a big deal. Mel, oh, you're muted, dear. Oops.
Two things. First of all, when I was doing it, I was just kind of aware of um, the unsettledness of this time. And when I came out, I felt calm. I just got some reassurances of calmness. And the other thing I wanted to share for those of you who knew him is Dorsey Blake died. I don't know if those who are in the CS movement know that, but anyway, Dorsey Blake died. His memorial's tomorrow. So thinking of him too.
Are you going to be at his memorial?
No, it's in the city. It's hard to get to.
Yeah.
And it's going to be online though.
Good.
Mel, can you send me that, Mel? Dorsey and I are close, and I preached at his church a few
Send you
times.
a link to it? Yes,
Yes,
I will.
I did not hear that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bob,
Someone
did you
just
see Tom's question in the chat?
Tom's no. Margie just said she you can't always express your feelings right after you've had an experience. Tom's, this was the first time I've tried. is there an introductory guide? Oh gosh, yes, there are many. Go to Veriditas. Here, I'll put it in the chat. Um, Veriditas.org, which should remind you of Viriditas. It comes from Hildegard. I mean, it's spelled two different ways. I've seen it VIR and VER, and Lauren Artris spells it VER because her mission was to green the planet with labyrinths. And she did a pretty darn good job of it. Um, there's the whole recommendation there. And when I was learning, there were three parts: releasing on the way in, receiving in the center, and returning. And just recently, just a month ago, Lauren said, you know, that returning only happened because when I introduced this in the beginning at Grace in San Francisco, people would get to the middle and they wouldn't know what to do. So I had to tell them to return and return. And I never knew that until then, right? I think that's funny.
But I do find that to be a helpful um, mode to put myself in as I'm coming out. I think we need a way to complete the experience, and I think that's exceedingly helpful. I don't know if you've seen Nancy has her hand up.
I did not see
Nancy,
that.
go ahead and unmute yourself. And
Yeah. Some of those yellow hands I can hardly see. So I'm
Oh, yeah,
sorry.
sorry. Um, had to laugh. I kept getting, I kept getting lost. I have physically walked many labyrinths. I have helped to build a labyrinth. And so I thought, oh, this is good. I just take this little picture and I just put my finger on it and this will be a piece of cake. Hey, I know what I'm doing. I just was so amused that I kept getting lost. And I realized that my finger is bigger than this path.
Mhm.
And so at the turns, I was losing my way. And
Mhm.
what I came out realizing is I get in my own way. I need to quit thinking that I'm so big that I know what I'm doing and I'm just, I'm on the path, I'm on the way. It's marvelous. I need I need to step back with humility and realize that I need to get out of my way in order to follow the path, whichever of the four paths I'm at the time. I need not to think that I'm so big.
Thank you for sharing that, Nancy. What occurred to me, the labyrinth is a metaphor for our lives. And we have so many turns in our way of being right now as a people, as a planet. And maybe we just need to slow down on the turns, came to me. Or maybe you just need a facilitator who remembers to tell you if you're using paper. What I recommend is maybe you want to draw little X's on the way in and leave a space in between and draw little O's or hearts or whatever, or use different colors or um, I have trouble just drawing a line. I lose it every time, you know. So I have to draw little symbols. Yeah. You too, Bob? Or
no, that I was sorry. I was going to just mention something else. Um, I've been so appreciative to learn from Marianne about this app and other online sources that are tremendously helpful. But I first learned about labyrinths by doing them in person. I was lucky to help a friend conduct one-day retreats for a bunch of grade 11 students. And part of my responsibility in that day was to guide them in and out of the labyrinth that happened to be on the property of the retreat center we were using. And so I've really I would just offer that the apps are so marvelous for this time of year. I'm in the northern hemisphere in Toronto, and so any labyrinths near me are buried in, well, not so much snow these days, but it's a little uncomfortable. But when I have the opportunity, it's amazing how many labyrinths exist on the ground in public spaces around the world. You can find databases and lists of them, but even just doing an online search in your own city or your own geography, you might be able to find some. There's at least a dozen in the in and around the city of Toronto that are just such a huge gift. And doing it that way, I find myself taking all the time in the world. I've been known to take an hour to get in and out, kind of thing, because you can really immerse yourself in it, and it's a tremendously powerful tool. I maintain that labyrinths create and maintain their own sacred space. It's a physical thing you can feel in your body when you're there. So I think they're a tremendous tool.
Thank you for sharing. So anyway, those 3 steps I told you about, then they morphed into 4 steps. Remember, and that's where I said, okay, I'm going to remember my blessings. Remember, release, receive, return, and then a lot of people add reflect. So they're all 5 R's. Reflect on your experience, on what this means in your life. It's easy to get lost, though. I've had people who have walked just fine at an outdoor retreat center, and then they come to a 24-foot canvas labyrinth with not many, but a few people, and it's too hard. And by the way, when we were in the Chartres Cathedral in September, I was very upset because on Fridays, which is the only day they take the chairs off of the labyrinth, you walk into the center and then you're supposed to exit, and the direction is go to God. Of course, they're pointing towards the altar, right? And I had to bite my tongue because I wanted to say, but God is right here, right? Anyway. Yes, Ellen.
Hello. Thank you so much for this. It's been fantastic. So appreciate. Would you mind repeating those 5 R's?
Oh, not at all. And you can even change them up, okay? So
Yeah.
remember, and Lauren talks about remember compassion
Yes.
and release, and she talks about release judgments.
Yes.
Receive, I always think of Joanna Macy, receive new eyes. And return. And that to me, that's the transformative, a return to celebrate. And then reflect. Reflect. What was this? What did you learn? And that's kind of what we're doing right now. Was this your, had you walked a labyrinth before, Ellen?
I have, but only live, on
Feet on ground.
in lived experience, real life. Yes. I have. And the very first time I walked the labyrinth was at Miraval in Tucson, Arizona, a retreat center spa holistic place. It was about 15 years ago, and I cried my way through that labyrinth. It was so powerful. It was so emotional. I got so in touch with gratitude that I was just sobbing. And of course, I've never forgotten that first time. And then since then, I have done several, but not as a regular practice. and I've always been drawn to it. Just, you know how it goes, opportunity and whatever. So I'm a first year student at One Spirit Seminary,
Mhm.
and um,
Oh, and were you just in Nathan's?
yes,
So you
yes,
have homework, I think, to walk the labyrinth.
yes. So it was an optional part of the homework, which I did not do. But then when I saw this, because I was so intrigued by his class, um, and I went on the website and I saw this, I was like, oh my God, I have to do it.
I'm so glad you came,
Oh,
Ellen.
I'm so glad I did. It was really very timely and needed. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Deep gratitude and blessings
Oh,
to
I'm so
all of
glad.
you. Thank you
Yeah.
for everything you're doing.
Oh, and you, yeah.
Thank you.
Cheryl just said, it would have been helpful to know those steps before the practice. Well, I don't like to be too prescriptive. I don't like to do that. I met a fellow, had a lovely conversation with a gentleman, a retired priest, when I was at the Parliament of World Religion in Chicago a year and a half ago. And he and his wife had been walking the labyrinth at Grace Cathedral every New Year's Eve, and then they went to the top of some tall restaurant for a New Year's drink, and then they went home. He didn't know anything about any steps, and they've been doing this for 20 years or something, and they kept coming back, so they must have enjoyed it and had a good experience. So there's no one way, there's no one right way to walk a labyrinth. Um, I've been telling people lately, if you have mobility issues, come anyway, because I've got the handheld labyrinths, and it can work. Anybody else want to share anything? I keep looking at David and realizing it's the middle of the night for you. I do want to tell you that I mentioned that I do this 8 times a year for CSC, and the next one will be May 1st. And that is the Celtic cross-quarter feast. It looks like Beltane, Beltane, and it's pronounced, I think, Bealtaine. And because it's the first Thursday, and because I don't think CSC should have two events on the same day, we are going to celebrate that walk as a first Thursday event, which means that one walk this year will be at 4 p.m. Eastern Time in the afternoon. And I hope you come, and I hope you bring your friends and family and neighbors and grandkids, and May 1st, 4 Eastern. It's on the calendar. CSC, we're revamping our website. Um, as is the selling point for the Living the Four Paths of Creation Spirituality product. You can buy that with one click. And if you don't get it for $100, contact Nathan. He's the CSC contact person, because you should be able to get it until June 1st for 100 instead of 150, which is a 33.33% discount this time.
Can
Oh,
I
Marge
can I
had
ask a question about that?
sure.
Um, I do facilitate some classes at Global Ministry University, and they were often looking for workshops. Would that make a excellent workshop with them if I presented it to them? Because
Yes.
that really moved me. It really did. I don't know what it is about that presentation, but it really moved me emotionally. And I think it could do that for a lot of other people. And I want to thank everybody for creating that. It was wonderful. I feel emotional about it now. I don't know what it was about it, but it really struck me.
It,
So I was wondering if that might be something. I don't know. I would need help with figuring out how I would present that to them.
and that's what the booklet would help with. It
Okay,
could be either like 4 discrete classes, one
separate.
path
Okay.
each, But this can also be easily divided into 6 sessions, an intro, path 1, path 2, path 3, path 4, and a conclusion.
Mhm.
You could spend a lot more time. I mean, there's so many ways you could use this. It could be a weekend, I know that's not what you're talking about, Margie.
Right.
But it could be a weekend retreat. You could stop and you can do the art as med and take a long time with it. You can stop and reflect on the sacred readings. You can stop and do an extra, like do the body prayer twice instead of just once.
So that would all be written out for me to present it, and I wouldn't have to
Yeah,
create.
well, once you've seen one of these webinars, Margie, I think it would be also logical. But
Okay.
yes, we're going to recommend some of that. Just different ways. It's a logical way of using the webinar.
Okay. Thank you. It was
Sure.
really wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. That's good feedback. Anybody else? We've got a little more time.
Well, I was just going to say, I too quickly downloaded the app, which I had my paper, but I used the app and really enjoyed it.
Good.
It's lighting it up makes it easy, Nancy, to follow.
Right.
But I a lot of times have trouble quieting my mind. And I find I haven't made it a regular practice, and now with the app, I'm hoping to do it a bit more. But whether I'm walking it or whether I have joined you one time previously to do this, so whether I'm doing it here on Zoom or in, experientially, it quiets my mind. It somehow or another has a focus that allows me to really leave all the extraneous stuff behind. And so being with all of you today has been delightful, and thank you. But and today, just like Ellen said a bit ago, it was really, really wonderful.
Thanks for sharing, Korea. Thanks for coming again.
Actually, if I can just second that, I have the same issue. I'm sorry, Carria, because our monkey minds keep us so busy, and our technology, our culture encourages all that. But this particular form of the labyrinth, you may be aware there are other configurations, other shapes. This particular one, because of the convoluted tracing back and forth and looping halfway around and then back, confuses that monkey mind, is the way I think of it. And so it just tends to give up on keeping track of where am I? Am I halfway through yet? And it's particularly visual on the app, as you say, the lighted pattern really does help the mind finally say, okay, I give up, I'm here. And I agree, that's very helpful as a reflection opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah.
That reminds me, Lauren Artris, my teacher, who has in common with Matthew Fox bringing these ancient systems to the 20th century. Labyrinth isn't new. This labyrinth is 800 years old, but we've got them traced back to maybe 5,000 or 6,000 years ago. See, creation spirituality isn't new. Aquinas talked about it. It's in the book of Genesis, and it's in creation, which is, what did I say? 13.8 billion years old. She was working in San Francisco when AIDS began to devastate the population she was serving. and she could not any longer do seated meditation. And she discovered about the same time the Labyrinth, and she could do that. Um, you know, I'm not saying we abandon one thing like seated meditation forever, but when things get difficult, sometimes it's good to walk in circles, so to speak, you know. And Bob, this one has 11 circuits. A friend of mine says, I need those 11 circuits. That's what I need to quiet down by the time I get to the center.
Absolutely. So,
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Anybody else want to share anything? Because I think it's just nice to see you. This has been a very nice experience. Mel, I wonder and if you don't, I will. If you want to close us with a little something, you're still muted.
Just want to make sure I'm not bothering anybody.
Mhm.
Okay, let us get in a comfortably alert position.
Mhm.
Take a couple deep breaths. Be aware of drinking in the beauty of the world around you. Be aware of the many gifts and the great abundance of the natural world. And sense that that light of love which creates all is in our heart center, where we sense the light of love spreading, filling our heart center. That we may live in compassion, peace. Oh,
I do have one last thing, Mel, if you're finished, right?
I'm done.
Okay, lovely, thank you. Um, Save the date, the end of May, the 30th, 31st, and the 1st of June. There's a virtual gathering. It'll be very affordable, a little bit Friday night, maybe 3 times on Saturday, and probably Sunday evening. And we hope you can come to all of it or some of it. But also with that in mind, explore the calendar of our website. We have good things happening, really good things happening. Classes and electives and a worship every first Sunday and some kind of wonderful tasty dish every first Thursday. Second Tuesday is a song fest. Um, Gosh, what am I missing, Mel? We've got,
Well, you got most of them.
I mean, there's a lot going on. And we try to work with people if money's an issue, and that's why if money's not a big issue, we could use your little donation now and then. So thank you again for coming. We really have enjoyed being with you and seeing your faces. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Mary
Thank
Ann.
you, Marianne.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
God
Great.
bless.
Thank you, Mel and Bob.
Bye.
This is wonderful,
Bye, everybody.
wonderful. Great to see you, Mary Ann.
You
Thank
too,
you.
Imogene.
I don't.
Bye-bye.
Beautiful. Happy
Bye.
equinox.